here.
Awesome. Well, welcome to game number 1 of this Winner Stays On series here on EGC TV. We have Vortix. He is the defending champion this week. Just last week, finally took a series off of Marine Lord, so he is looking to defend his title and continue his streak. And he is playing China up against, on the other side of the map, we have Hera playing the English, and the map is Mountain Pass. So we were talking a little bit before this game. We probably expect to see some English pressure coming down here, for China has such a strong boom. They typically like to turtle. And as we're looking at this Mountain Pass, there's actually 2 passes. There's this big one here on the right, and there's a tiny gap there on the left. So hopefully they scout that. It's kind of hard to see when you're looking at the terrain, but you can see it on the mini-map quite clearly. But that does give 2 positions that there could perhaps be a conflict, but we'll have to see early on here. Now the players are running out. Typically on this map, I think the go-to thing to do with your scout is to just run mid and try to grab those sheep as soon as possible, or maybe even steal some of your opponent's sheep. What do you think about the sheeping scouting patterns, Lidakor?
Well, the first thing that we're noting is that Hera actually went for a second scout for himself. So as you said, running for that sheep actually is pretty valuable, because depending on how many sheep you're able to get, you can delay your farm transition. And transitioning to farms is always a big investment, so you want to delay it as much as possible. On the other side, Vortix is going for that standard mill opening here, being supervised. He's likely going to play professional scouts with Chinese over here. That's the standard way of approaching things. So I would expect Hera to potentially try going for professional scouts himself as well, simply so that he can limit the amount of huntables accessible for Vortix, because as you said, there's multiple crossings over here. Hera has spotted this tiny one on the left side, and this could be a difference maker later in the game, because as you said, this is difficult to spot, but it's a clear crossing over here.
Well, and you mentioned the double scout opening. I feel like this is something in the meta we've seen just developed in like the last week or two, where players are opening and maybe their first thing they're training is a second scout. I don't think this has been going on for very long, but just the importance of finding those sheep. Players have started to realize where they're actually spawning on the maps. And then also, as you get into the second age, having those additional scouts ready to go if you decide to go into professional scouts. Now, you mentioned that he might go professional scouts to try to deny China, and that is about the only purpose I think you would typically see, because out of all the civilizations with professional scouts being so popular right now, I find that English is usually the one civ that you can sometimes count on not going for it. But yeah, he could possibly do it just for a fact of trying to starve out his opponent, assuming that China is going to be turtling up here.
The other advantage of going for double scouts is that it's much easier to pick off villagers at the beginning, and we talked about the fact that Chinese want to wall these crossings off early on, because you want to prevent the English longbow rush from hitting you. And having 2 scouts out here for Hera could actually allow him to prevent walls from coming up. He won't be able to stop these walls on this side, but he might intercept the villager here.
Yeah, and you're going to see him canceling the animation. We see this time and time again over these tournaments with the scout can lay out a ton of damage on that villager. And there we go. Looks like Vortix scout is already low in HP. We got a villager low HP. He did get 1 wall up, but didn't get that main pass yet. And he's I don't know if he's going to be able to. English ages up so quickly and gets those longbows in your face that if you don't get walled right away, you can just expect those longbows are coming. Oh, we do see a Barbican of the Sun coming down mid-map. I have seen some stuff like this on Mountain Pass, so a nice little play. It's kind of lucky that the scouts are here at in the Chinese base instead of at that Mountain Pass right now.
This is definitely risky over here for Vortix. 2 scouts could stop that very easily. It's only 2 villagers building it, so if that Barbican of the Sun is stopped, it might just be game over. But it looks like Hera is here to harass the Lumberjacks, so Vortix actually gets away with that Barbican of the Sun.
Yeah, this is really a risky move. I mean, if you're in Vortix shoes going for that, like he's just counting on being able to get those scouts there. Like if they're out there, just like you said, they could totally deny that landmark going up. But sometimes you got to make a risk, and I think it's going to pay off for him. If those longbows start walking mid, they're going to be very unhappy with what they find.
Absolutely. That Barbican of the Sun could be a difference maker over here, because there is no way for
and a wall in front
to
of
get
it.
through, and there's a wall coming up, which means that even though Hera was actually very aggressive and he could have easily stopped this one, I think he just didn't see the villagers moving forward, and he assumes that the opening is still there.
Now, I'm not sure if the players will necessarily go for the relics or not, but if you look at the relic spawn, Vortix does have 3 to the north of the mountain pass, and he also has one right by his wall if he decides to grab it. I find that sometimes there's players that just straight up ignore it, and sometimes players go straight for them. I always feel like it's so good having all the extra gold generation, but that is a thing we can see there on the map.
Hera's doing an excellent job harassing stuff with scouts over here. He's known in the Age of Empires community as a very, very good cavalry player. In Age of Empires 2, he might have been the single best cavalry player out there. He's just exceptional with cavalry micro, and you see the amount of damage he's doing over here is just huge. He isn't killing villagers, but he's forcing a lot of idle time, forcing those villagers to go back to the town center once they lose a lot of HP.
Yeah, I always think when I'm talking to players about like pressuring early on, even if you don't get a villager kill, as he does get a villager kill there, even forcing idle time, that's time wasted for those villagers. That's resources lost. That's less military they're going to have. So this is definitely paying off. I don't know if we'll see this for very much longer. I can only imagine this scout canceling animation will be patched in the future, but for now it is very alive and well.
Here come the villagers, and Hera is going to spot them, so this should be a sign for Hera that, hey, my opponent probably has some walls up out there. Now, looking at Hera, he isn't really putting up much pressure. We haven't talked about that yet, because
he's town centers.
Very active with those scouts. So, indeed, he's just gonna go 2 TC booming, and by harassing those lumberjacks, he could delay Vortix's new town center here.
Yeah, so getting some economic value. I mean, English, it's a strong all-around civilization, so yes, he's going for that second town center, and maybe we'll even see a third town center, but I still don't know if I like sitting back against a China boom, but he doesn't really have a ton of options right now. I guess he could technically push that left wall with the ram and just go around everything, or even just go after that Barbican as it's very far from the town center, and wouldn't really have a whole lot of reinforcements, but I think we're going to see we're going to have a little bit of time here before any more action. It looks like both players are pretty comfortable with their city building.
Currently, we're sitting at 26 villagers for Vortix, 28 for Hera, so slightly faster second town center is gonna help. There's also some farming already set up for Hera, which will be boosted by the English bonus. So here, if you're playing double town centers with the English, you are unlikely to go for the King's Palace as your castle age landmark. Instead, you will go for the White Tower, and what I would expect from Hera is that he's gonna go forward with that White Tower, and then use that to produce siege in the middle of the map, push through this wall, and then start contesting this side, because Vortix right now has the 2 TC boom as he's attempting to wall Hera scouts in on the left side, but usually it takes some time until the 2 TC boom of the Chinese really kicks in. So there's going to be a window for Hera to make an early mid-castle age push here.
And still, at the end of the day, you can have all the boom in the world. It matters what you do with your military push. Because I've seen games, even last weekend's tournament, where there was 2 players, and the player who had the stronger boom just didn't get his military out in time, or just didn't have the right strategy with comp or whatever. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the game. And we see that wall starting to come down from the scouts. They do the same amount of torch damage as just about a horseman or anyone else. And you notice English going for those farms early on. I always like to point out, because sometimes there's new viewers at home, or perhaps players who haven't played English. English have superior gather rates for their farms, and they produce them for very, very cheap. It's a discounted rate, so it's actually better to throw down those farms early on versus walking all your villas out to one of those hunts and having a lot of idle time. So that's why you see English going for farms so early on, and often not going for professional scouts.
Absolutely. Also, the sooner you get them down, the better that bonus is going to be, so you don't need a ton of sheep to start with. Obviously, it's an investment at the beginning, but it returns its value much faster compared to other civilizations farming. You see that there's basically no farming going on for Vortix. He's going to prioritize hunt and berries, of course.
Yeah. Knowing the difference between the gather rates for all those different food is just a really important skill early on. And a lot of players, they'll pick English as their first civilization to learn. They are rated an easy civ to pick up. And if you do get into this farming technique, don't carry that across to other civilizations, because you really don't want to farm with other civs until you have to in general.
Absolutely. Also worth noting that you need to have those farms in the influence radius of mills. So unlike other civilizations that just build their farms around their town centers, you actually need to build them close to mills. They have to be in the close vicinity to get that plus. And Hera is coming up with the King's Palace. Looks like he's coming in as a big boomer. So that would be 3 town centers worth of boom. If we do a bit of a math here, in 40 seconds, with 3 town centers, for the English, that's 6 villagers. For the Song Dynasty with the Chinese, that's also 6 villagers. So the same production of villagers can be achieved with 3 English town centers as compared to Chinese 2 town centers Song Dynasty boom.
Lidakor, I'm already impressed with your math skills, because my general rule is it's never a good idea to do math on stream because you almost always get it wrong. So I'm glad I got you here in the booth today.
Hera's still active with those scouts, but this might be the time where he's gonna lose one. Oh, he gets away.
You know, and this is the difference between like professional level play. I mean, I feel like even like myself, I'll send a scout in, see something, be happy enough with that at like the 5 or 10 minute mark, and not care if he dies to something. Like, look at this. Still at the 11-minute mark, these same 2 scouts are being obnoxious and getting value for Hera at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the thing is that those scouts aren't powerful. Hera makes them seem like powerful, killing villagers left and right and harassing them, but really, if 95% of the people in the Age of Empires scene just sent 2 scouts into a group of 10 villagers, they would lose those 2 scouts in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So, I mean, you say scouts aren't powerful, but it's a cheap unit, and with that cancel animation, it kind of is powerful. It's kind of crazy with the canceling. So I wonder if we'll see that role change here in the future. Hint, hint, Relic, if you're listening.
It's interesting to see that Vortix isn't using supervisors to move out to the other mills that he has built outside. Usually the reason why you use professional scouts with Chinese is because you want to ferry in the deer to that supervised mill, so you drop off more food. In this case, he's only supervising the mill that was getting the sheeps dropped off. Everywhere else, it's not being supervised, so it's just standard food income for Vortix out there.
We have another scout. Look at this. How many villas has he lost to these 2 scouts?
It's just ridiculous, but it's also very frustrating. So even if you don't lose villagers, you always get that attack notification, and those can just grow on you, because at some point you might just be like, oh yeah, another attack notification, and Hera's going in for the kill, he gets that.
Oh my gosh. And there's no easy way to respond to it either, because it's like, okay, does he throw down a military building when he really doesn't want to? He's trying to boom. Do you pull your vills to all to try to stab it, but then at the same time, you've just idled 5 or 6 villagers, and you look at that scout is still alive at the end of the day.
And it heals up passively. I feel like the best solution for Vortix would have been to just make 2 scouts himself and say, okay, you're out of here. Because
at this point I would have, yeah. Or drop it, yeah.
Ooh, Hera's going for stables. That's a good idea, I do believe. With the English, many players are so stuck with that longbow approach, and the Chinese love to play palace guards. So, oftentimes one of the reasons why English fall to Chinese is because they just go so stubbornly on the longbow department, and they die to the palace guards. But what Hera is doing is going for stables, which is not really conventional with the English, but they do have perfectly fine knights, and those will be a very good unit to take down enemy siege, to take down enemy palace guards as well, and then the longbows can support them quite nicely.
Well, in both players, Boom's in a good spot, but Hera's up in age. His Boom's doing great. And China, do they have any military buildings yet over there? I mean, Hera's starting to push here, and I think for Hera, this is when he wants to push. You don't want to be going against super late game China. You don't want to wait till they have a clock tower, bombards, and a bunch of nested bees. Now, I would assume we'll see some siege start to be trained here as Vortix hits H3, but I feel like this is probably about the time frame you want to start making your move if you're in Hera's shoes.
Absolutely, and this is why those Lancers could be very useful here. Against longbows, a couple of Nest of Bees will hold, so even though the army numbers wouldn't be great for Vortix, he would still have the chance to hold against longbows. But once you got some knights going, that's going to be difficult to hold against for Vortix. Here comes the first 2 Nest of Bees, as you would expect. And you see Hera is already looking at his opponent's base, seeing what kind of units he's expecting. And there are the Palace Guards and Nest of Bees. That's the standard and predictable unit comp of Chinese. And because of that, Hera's Knight plus Longbow army could work very nicely.
Well, and just another high level thing where we've talked about these scouts so much, but think about how much value he just got running these scouts through. He knows exactly what his enemy's making, knows what to expect, what to counter, if he needs to make any adjustments to his compositions. And you see Vortix doing the same thing right now, running in. I'm assuming maybe saw all those stables right there, and that's going to tell him a lot about what. Yeah, it's hard to ever tell in the observer, but seeing all those stables is a lot of intel for Vortix.
Absolutely. He saw the King's Palace and he saw the second stable. So he knows exactly that there is going to be knights coming, and he knows exactly that his opponent was on a free TC boom. So he can estimate the size of Hera's economy, and he can sort of predict Hera's unit composition. Wouldn't be surprised to see spearmen being added. Indeed, here they come. The problem is that longbows and knights go very well together, so spearmen alone, even with Nest of Beast support, won't be that great here either.
Yeah, so we got a few rams coming in. What's the villager count right now? Are they about even? 89 and 93, so Vortix is ahead. I mean, you kind of would assume so at this point. Is that a wall segment back at home I see him building?
Yep, it is. He realizes that he can't protect the middle. In fact, he's going to lose the Barbican of the Sun. So he needs to go for some contingency walls because he simply doesn't have army. Currently, Hera is at 43 army. Vortix is at 18 only, most of that being Spearmen and Nest of Bees.
Yeah, it looks like maybe he's just going to spam Spearmen to sit on top of the Nest of Bees, which could be a strategy here, but I don't know if he has enough yet. And when I talked about this it's still a matter of getting your units out no matter how good your economy is. But here we go. We've got the Knights moving in, Longbows moving in, but 3 Nest of Bees, Springolds, and some Spears. I think he'll be okay to hold this.
He's gonna be fine holding it. Here come the Knights. Spearmen should be able to keep them away. And oh, that's a disaster.
Oh my god. Fireworks going off. Lots of Longbows dead on the field. And yeah, you're gonna probably need... I almost feel like Hera already needs some Springolds to deal with that. I think he was planning on just running the Knights in and killing it, but right now it looks like he's gonna just try to raid some villagers to get some value out of this right now.
That's the best thing he can do. Send in some Knights, because the thing is that Vortix might be able to hold this, but he won't be able to chase down all those Knights or take a direct engagement out here, so his economy could collapse if he's getting raided. And Hera's using this push as a perfect diversion because the Knights are now in.
I'm surprised Hera didn't throw his longbows into spread mode coming into this battle. He knew those Nest of Bees were there waiting to lay that volley down, and it just takes one big shot of a bunch of those and you lose all your longbows.
Absolutely. And now Hera's got some Knights behind Vortix's base. At this point, the key thing for Hera is that his opponent is having a lot of idle time, his eco isn't looking great, whereas Hera's untouched back at home, so he just needs to keep applying pressure, and he already has a forward siege workshop coming up to get some Springolds out against the Nest of Bees.
Now, I want to draw your attention, if you look at this Nest of Bees, he was bringing like 3 or 4 villagers along to heal them, so as they were taking hits, we've seen a lot of players doing this. The healing rates are so fast on siege units that it is worth it just to have a few villagers focusing on your siege during some big fights, and he was able to keep some of those Nest of Bees alive. A few villagers going down right now to the longbows and the Knights charging in, but a big shot from the Nest of Bees taking some Knights out, and on the back line, Hera is losing a lot of Knights right now.
Yeah, that was a little sloppy over here for Hera, losing all those Knights that could have done a lot of damage down south over here. Still, he's the one applying pressure, so if you look at the economies, that is a clear advantage now for Hera. 94 villagers for Vortix, 110 for Hera, so even though he wasn't killing a ton here, he was idling his opponent's eco, he's limiting his map control, and he's simply the one that's forcing the engagements.
I mean, this is exactly what we said needed to happen. Hera had to put out this pressure here in the 3rd age. He's trying to put this pressure on China so they can't just boom up to the 4th age. We have a Springold going down there, and we see a tower constructed on the front line for Hera. For those of you who aren't familiar, for English, they get that network of castles, and that will give them a plus 25% attack speed increase for all their units. So a lot of times you see English players creeping forward with their towers, just like the Mongols do. And a keep, I think, being dropped behind that right now.
Absolutely, that tower is about to go down. That keep is quite important for Hera because that would also give him network of castles bonus, but it was a little ambitious to build it with only 3 vills. It's a fairly sizable force of spearmen, and Hera's still not using the staggered formation over here to try and avoid those Nest of Bees volleys.
Well, and now those Nest of Bees numbers and Springolds can actually do some real damage to those Knights every time they run by, with the Spears just chilling back to protect them. And it's very interesting. Vortix is going for a purely Spearman and Siege unit comp right now.
Here comes Hera though on the north. If he's actually sent those rams to the north to break through those walls, he could cause a lot of trouble for Vortix, because I think the best thing that Hera can do right now is use the mobility of those knights. That's why losing those knights at the back of Vortix's base hurts. Because
man, that wall is just so smart. The foresight of that, like, you know, that wall segment just saved him a lot.
Absolutely. And losing those knights meant that Hera couldn't trade this gold mine down south, and there's just no other way to access it right now.
So yeah, it looks like Hera did get his keep up. I guess still right now Hera does have a little more map. Now look at that. We have all these relics just chilling out on the map. It doesn't look like any desire to pick them up, though. That could be up to, you know, each relic gives you 100 gold per minute if you've got it garrisoned. So you could have 500 gold per minute here, but they're just going to stay out there for now.
And Hera is going up to Imperial with the Berkshire Palace at an interesting location on the far left side. I'm not sure what to think about that. It's probably just because he wants to focus. Yeah, he just wants to focus his eco here. It's the sacred site on this side, a gold mine, a lot of wood, so it kind of feels like he's afraid of a push on the left side, and he might be righteously afraid of that because there's a push from Vortix coming in.
Yeah, but I wonder why not build it like right here at the pass. But, you know, it does kind of protect his eco there on the back line. But yeah, China's army coming through quick with the siege. We've got the Nest of Bees eliminating those villagers, but those stone walls did get a good start there. Will Hera push on the other side, or will he fall back? He's going to do something here. It's not every day that you see two passes here. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And he also has a stone wall on his front line for Vortix. So I think Vortix might just push through here.
Yeah, it looks like both players will just try to push the opponent's stone walls, but it's a little easier for Vortix to get through these unfinished walls compared to Hera, although he doesn't have any rams or trebuchets to break through that, whereas Hera's got rams, so both walls might actually be breached. Hera's up to Imperial compared to his opponent, who is kind of far away, and that could be a big difference maker with elite longbows, potentially elite knights.
Now, does Hera have enclosures coming in yet for his farms?
Very good question. It looks like he doesn't.
Okay, so that's why he can get that gold generation from his farms. We see the Nest of Bees at the front line taking shots on those rams. How effective are Nest of Bees at killing rams? It didn't look like they did a whole lot of damage, but I guess, you know, enough of them will kill them.
Absolutely, they're not particularly effective, but with those springolds out there, there's just no way for Hera to break through. But Hera probably doesn't even want to break through at this point. It's Bombard's time for him, because he can start knocking on those walls, and Bombards will take down those walls in just a couple of shots. I've seen some men-at-arms coming in as well for Hera, and with the Clad Armor upgrade and Elite, they could be a very useful unit against Spearmen. Obviously, Nest of Bees do quite well against them, but they only do well until they're not getting overrun by the men-at-arms.
Yeah, now, this is a very Delhi thing to be thinking, but I'm looking at this map right now. Hera's got that southern sacred site under control. If you look at the north, he basically has that northern quadrant of that side of the pass. He could start a sacred site timer. I think it could be something to maybe force China out of his base a little bit. But it does look like Hera is going to be trying to make a push here now that he is in the Imperial Age, has some bombards. I see another tower coming down on the front line, but there's those springolds going to be ready to snipe that bombard down. Let's see if they get it here.
Notably, Hera has gotten one of the most underappreciated upgrades of the English, the network of citadels. So, now with that upgrade gone from the castle, he's actually getting plus 50% attack speed, not just plus 25. So, this aura from these keeps are just immensely valuable out here.
Yeah.
Hera knocking down the walls over here, breaching it a little bit more, crawling up with the towers, but that tower shouldn't be long-lived. I love how Hera is sending a villager to the left side now, finishing those walls, because he kinda needs that, otherwise his opponent could just break through any moment.
Yep, here comes the springolds. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Was that like 7 or 8 springolds there? Yeah, you see that bombard running back. And also these outposts gives him some line of sight, so he can see when these springolds do push up. And while springolds now do 30 damage versus typical units, non-siege units, the towers, if they get their springold emplacement, they still will deal out 60 damage a shot. I don't know if he's going to get any of those upgrades, but it can be nice for just holding a position or pushing.
Absolutely. Towers with springold emplacements are pretty underrated. They're rather cheap, or at least affordable. And they do have a decent amount of firepower working for them. So they're actually a rather reasonable answer to the springolds over here. Now, we haven't talked about Vortix for some time. He was in the Song Dynasty last time I checked, but that is a Spirit Way with a lot of stables nearby. And that, to
wonder
me...
what he could be going for.
Indeed, that to me feels like a Fire Lancer push here. What does Hera have against that? He's got Elite Longbows, he's got Men-at-Arms with no Elite upgrade just yet, Elite not even coming in, and some Castle Age Knights, so missing a lot of Imperial Age upgrades still.
I mean, he could just sneak through the south, you know, really quickly blow up those walls and run south and start nuking landmarks if he wanted to.
Hera now bombarding that keep out here. With Imperial Age in for our Chinese player, we already have that +2 range on the Springbolt, so he can snipe those bombards from a distance. Now it's going to be difficult to push this keep.
Yeah, and this is a situation, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to be in if I was playing English, because this late game China is perhaps the strongest in the entire game, particularly because their siege just has so much extra HP, and when it comes to the bombard battles, they just are typically going to pull ahead.
Looking at the map control, that's something that we'll have to talk about, because at this point, Hera is taking the sacred sites, and he should do the one on the north as well. Take the relics, and just keep on the pressure. If you think about it, the neutral market on this side is also under Hera's control. So at this point, Hera's got like 60% map control. He could starve his opponent out of resources.
Man, I really think he honestly, with the way he was able to get established on this northern side so early on, I really feel like Hera could have pushed the Sacred Site victory a little more aggressively, because now China's in a spot to start pushing out. They finally are in the 4th age, but here we go, a big battle. Longbows just trying to pick off its spears, but the Nest of Bees laying down the shots on the man-at-arms. Knights trying to flank, it looks like trying to go around the side. Maybe they'll just go for the eco line, is what I think they're going to be doing. Oh, maybe yeah, he's gonna be careful with his spears, but Longbow's trying to focus them down. But I feel like at the end of the day, Vortix is gonna be okay here. It's hard to say.
Fire Lancers joined the fun just now. Some of the siege weapons are going down, though, and the longbows are still alive. Men-at-Arms have an insane amount of melee armor here, so it's very difficult to kill them just by using spearmen and palace guards. I think Hera is gonna be unable to push this keep, though. He lost his bombards, and Vortix will be able to hold.
Yeah, he kept all of his siege alive for the most part. He lost his spears, but at the end of the day, the spears are fairly cheap units to replenish. But Man-at-Arms still getting on the back line, trying to take some shots at the Springbolts. Did he get any knights through the raid? I saw them, I think they all dove into the siege line.
Yeah, most of the knights went on just to kill the siege. Hera wanted to force a decisive engagement over here, snipe the siege, and then take down the keep, but that didn't work out. Now we're seeing a lot of Fire Lancers coming in, so it is Hera's time to make a move against that. He only has hardened spearmen, so he's very far from even veteran, let alone elite spears.
Now, for the folks at home that maybe haven't played China or haven't seen the fear of the Fire Lancer, can you maybe sum up what they do here in battle?
They just destroy everything. That's the short answer. But Fire Lancers do have an area effect on their charge, so they charge in, and that deals an enormous blast. In straight-up melee combat, they're rather fragile, but their charge is devastating, and that's what Vortix is doing right now. Disengaging and then charging back in, just to always fight with that charge and not the base attack of the Fire Lancers.
And we've got to keep coming down here just to the north for Hera, so that'll help him as he can kind of kite back into that with his longbows, but that bombard is making quick work of Hera's keep.
Absolutely. Hera is trying his best to push up, and I feel like at this point Hera should spot that those lumberjacks are chopping down that final forest left in here. Sure thing, those Fire Lancers are increasing in numbers, but now Vortix is on a timer. Hera is taking the sacred site up north, he already has the one on the south, and most importantly, Vortix is running out of wood. Soon he's going to overchop that wood line, and Hera could use that to raid as well.
Yeah, is his wood line to the south there in a Vortix base? Is that completely? Oh, that is completely empty. So yeah, you're right. He is a bit on time. If he runs out of that wood, Hera could starve him out. But Fire Lancer's looking to do something here. He's got so much siege, so much Fire Lancers. He really wants to push out here.
The most important thing here for Hera is to use the staggered formation. He can't clump up his spearmen because the first charge will just decimate all those spears. The area effect is particularly good against units with low base HP, like spearmen, so you really want to make sure that you don't just die to the first charge. Split up your spearmen and then slowly grind down those numbers, and that's exactly what we're seeing over here. Those lumberjacks being harassed. This is the way that Hera needs to play this one. In fact, I would love to see a cannon emplacement on that tower.
And Hera has to know, like, if you see him having so many villagers on the front line, that has to definitely tell him that he is running out of res. And if we look up in the top left at what Hera and Vortix have resource-wise, Vortix still has, well, he has wood in the bank for a while, so maybe he'll be okay, but eventually he will run out.
Absolutely. And behind this one, keep in mind that Hera's got way more resources to work with. Hera probably has enclosures now, so he has passive gold income as well. Hera tried to charge him with the spears on the springolds, and it looks like he might be catching Vortix off guard here.
Yeah, they turned around for a second. I thought he was going to go for it, but he wanted to get that spread formation. Oh, uh-oh. This is everybody's worst nightmare. We've got the Fire Lancers charging in on the back line. While Fire Lancers can't take down stone walls, they are very, very, very effective at killing buildings extremely quickly, particularly your landmarks, keeps, whatever it might be, and killing villagers.
That was the plan the whole time for Vortix. I was looking at that mass of Fire Lancers, and I was like, dude, he has to try and snipe the landmarks. Now, that's not enough Fire Lancers to do that, but he definitely opens up the left side, and now Hera has to defend, and this is the new wood line over here for Vortix, right on Hera's side.
Yeah, what a smart idea. He ran out of wood on his side. Just go take your enemies' trees. And I think the Sacred Site timer is counting down, but I'm afraid he's probably not going to have it for long enough.
Yeah, at this point, Vortix knows exactly that Sacred Timer doesn't matter. If he doesn't win this game in like 5 minutes, he's not going to lose it on the Sacred Site terms, he's going to lose it on resource control terms, because not only he's going to start running low on wood, he's also going to start running low on gold. He doesn't have any more mineable gold left either.
I feel like out of all the civilizations, the English probably have the best emplacements for dealing with this Fire Lancer as far as like your buildings shooting at them, because they've just got that advanced attack speed as you see it. All those buildings shooting at these Lancers as they're running through, so they're able to slowly take them out.
Absolutely. And the clock is ticking for multiple reasons here for Vortix. Now, Vortix was able to push out of his base for a brief moment, but the moment Hera attacks this wood line, Vortix would lose like 60 plus villagers.
That's a lot of villagers in one spot. I wonder if Hera could see that. I mean, he's getting close.
Hera doesn't know it just yet, but he's going to spot it very soon. Now, the Fire Lancers are pushing up though, and Hera had to scramble for defense, so his forces are mispositioned right now for this fight.
Yeah, this is really hard to deal with because those Lancers can just deal so much siege damage so quickly, and you have to have those pikes in the right spot, and then we've got the siege, of course, always taking shots at the spearmen, so this spear Fire Lancer siege comp is going really great.
It is going really, really great. Sacred Site's still under the control of Hera right now, as Vortix is banking up quite a lot of wood. But now the Spearmen get back on the battlefield, so it's gonna be a little more difficult for Vortix to continue this push. He might take down the keep here, though.
Yeah, he's... yeah, this front line is having issues as he had to fall back to defend his home front, but... The Spearmen charging forward, trying to get on the nest of bees in the worst way, but they just haven't been able to make contact.
Absolutely, and that one bombard is doing all the work, and Hera is even going to lose his boiling oil progress over here because the keep collapses.
Oh my gosh, that was so close. I feel like these are like the same 3 nest of bees have been alive the whole game. Like, he might have sniped him, but he's done a really good job of keeping his siege alive.
Nice charge with the Fire Lancers going on the longbows. Hera losing that keep means that he also loses the network of Citadels bonus, but on the left side now it's going to start becoming a slaughter. At the beginning this actually helps Vortix because by losing the villagers he can replace all of them with armies, so he's gonna have a big bowl of Fire Lancers, but replenishing that army will be next to impossible. Oh no!
Look at all those villagers running.
No!
Oh, the spears! Oh, complete block off here! Oh my gosh, this is going to be a massacre. This is going to go down in the history books. Vortix's villagers dancing around. He might not even see that this is happening. He must not. And those spearmen just slaughtering them right now.
Absolutely. If we look at the villager count of Vortix, he's down to 87, and that's going to be like minus 20 here still.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, he realized it. He realized it, but now Vortix's population is collapsing. He's still floating 4,000 wood, but he's running low on gold. his food
53.
income isn't necessarily great either. So
Hera's eco is in a great spot too. So Hera he survived that initial Fire Lancer charge, which is probably the hardest thing. And it seems like he's stabilized. And we have Sacred Strike victory was counting down, and it does look like match is complete. Hera taking game number 1 here of this winner stays on.
Absolutely. Although we have to highlight that at this point, it wasn't about the sacred side control.
Yeah.
Like, the cold hard truth is that Hera was able to break a potential stalemate by just having more map control, and his opponent just starved out of resources. Not even Wood was the main problem, because Vortix had that banked up, but gold was a serious concern, and basically all that power for the Chinese comes from gold units. Fire Lancers, they do cost a bit of a gold, but especially those long-range bombards, even Palace Guards, so without gold, it's very, very difficult to keep up with the English, whereas the English will love to play a non-gold scenario. They do have great longbowmen, and Hera also obviously has the enclosures on his farms. So if we look at the overall economies, even though Vortix collected 3,000 more food, he wasn't able to collect any more. Hera with 14k more food and 5k more gold, also with 5k more stone, so it helped a lot to get those fortifications up.